Charlie, what do y'all say? Vibe? It's a cool vibe.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
a
what
cool
y'all
vibe.
say?
I think that's a good way to put it, Sparky. Good use
Vibe.
of your young person knowledge.
Yeah, very good. See, I work with young people now, so y'all are starting to rub off on me a little bit. So coming out down here at Camp Bar, Third Ward, hang out. Have yourself a Sun Cruiser vodka iced tea as well. We're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers today. Our weekly hit with Ryan Wood from the Green Bay Press Gazette, Packers beat writer. He'll join us coming up at 2:40 today, and looking forward to talking more with him. We talked a little bit last night on the Green Bay Football Postgame Show. If you missed that show last night with Tommy Wirtz and myself, all you have to do, go back, listen to it wherever you download it and listen to your favorite podcast. Also, you can go watch it on YouTube if you want to see the video of the post-game show last night. Had a lot of fun with Tommy doing that show last night. And Charlie and I have not really talked at all today, per se, about what this all looks like now for the Green Bay Packers. Because I remember going into week one, looking at these two games, knowing how banged up the Packers were coming off of training camp. And I was just like, man, if they go 1-1, I'm happy. And I even went as far to say, even if they go 0-2, it's not freak out time because they lose the first two games. And it's probably going to take them a little time to get into a rhythm. And you look at it now, and boy, oh boy, how big of a foolish statement that was, Charlie, looking at how dominant this team has been through 2 weeks.
I mean, it has completely flipped expectations how good this team has looked so far in this season. Again, just through 2 weeks, but it's two good football teams, and they haven't been healthy in either of these games fully. We've only seen about a half of game of Micah Parsons in each of these. So when this defense is at full strength, when this team is at full strength, I mean, the sky's the limit at this point. I have no more expectations for the squad. It feels very Brewers-esque, where you expect them to be a good squad, but not this good this early.
See, and that's the thing, too. You know, when you get Micah Parsons in that deal, you expect to have the defense be better at that point. You expect the defense to take another step. I don't think that we were all expecting it to take another step so quickly. Like, he only plays 29, 30 snaps in that first game and immediately has an impact. Now he comes back yesterday, plays closer to 50 snaps and has 8 pressures. And it's like, well, you know, how about his endurance level? How is that keeping up? Well, 6 of the 8 pressures came in the second half of that football game yesterday. And yeah, he only ended up with a half a sack, but he was a problem. And not only was he a problem, but yet you again see other guys on that defensive line creating pressures and opportunities for themselves. Lucas Van Ness with a big play. Devontae White with a couple of different plays. Colby Wooden broke free as well in that game. Rashawn Gary got to the quarterback. So you're seeing these guys that were kind of held at bay last year when there was no Micah Parsons to now 2 weeks in a row, and all of these guys look like they're going to, you know, when Micah Parsons got here, he said, I'm going to get the cornerbacks paid. Well, to heck with that. You're going to get your fellow defensive linemen paid in large order if they continue to play like this, Charlie.
You're definitely going to get your defensive lineman paid. I mean, a guy like Devontae Wyatt is just licking his chops after this kind of start for the Green Bay Packers and this defense. He's a guy that really needed to prove himself. The Packers went out there and kind of trusted him a little bit to give him that extra year and see what he can do. And this is how you make some money out there. Lucas Van Ness is a guy that I think throughout the first couple seasons of his career didn't earn a second contract with almost any team in the NFL based on what we saw. And now through 2 weeks, again, you're seeing him be an impact player. This immediately raises the paychecks for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, you know, that's the other thing, too, about this is when we talk about the way they're playing, right? They're playing with this intensity, this hunger. I think that's what Rashawn Gary said when they asked him to describe how the Packers are and what their identity is after the game. Rashawn Gary goes, hungry. That's how I describe it. We're all hungry to get to that next level for this Packers team right now. And the crazy part about this is, you know, when the Packers get Reggie White, he's in Philadelphia and had only gotten so far, right? Never was able to get to the Super Bowl and so forth. Then he takes a gamble on a young quarterback in Brett Favre that he thought was going to be worth going with and thinking that they could maybe win a Super Bowl when nobody thought they could. Micah Parsons, this isn't Brett Favre necessarily because Brett Favre literally was a third-string quarterback and wasn't playing. But Micah Parsons is kind of in the same boat where he's kind of rolling the dice a little bit on Jordan Love. Yeah, there's a lot of hype around Jordan Love. Yeah, Jordan Love got paid a lot of money, $55 million a year. But Jordan Love has not gotten himself to a Super Bowl to this point either. Jordan Love has his questions about taking care of the ball, not throwing interceptions. Jordan Love himself has questions about injury concerns and staying on the football field. There's somewhat of a roll of a dice here by Micah Parsons to agree to be traded to Green Bay and then sign the extension that this is all going to work out, because if we're being honest, if Jordan Love doesn't work out, none of this is going to work out the way they want it to work out, Charlie. It does come down to Jordan Love playing at a high level.
It does. But one thing I noticed in last night's game, and Kurt Warner actually posted this on Twitter too, he was talking about the style of aggression that it feels like Jordan Love is playing with through these first couple of weeks, especially in yesterday's game, where it felt like he was a little bit more aggressive, but it was a controlled aggression with how he's throwing the football. It felt right. It felt not like the past couple of years where you were afraid that it was going to be going into danger every time he was going to make a complicated or hard throw, or even in that first game where we saw that a couple times and it felt like, ooh, all right, we're going to see Jordan Love again. Yesterday's game, and I know that Washington's defense looked old. They didn't look like the defense that I think we had advertised to us by JP Finley yesterday. That front seven was supposed to be a little bit more aggressive. That defensive back room wasn't really supposed to be a group of slouches. It wasn't supposed to be good, but it wasn't supposed to be as bad as we saw. And Jordan Love took advantage of that. And if we can see that moving forward here, we can see Matt LaFleur kind of give him those opportunities, then I am really excited for what Jordan Love can be. And I think Micah Parsons should be excited about that too.
Yeah, I think everybody is relatively excited about where they're at. And the crazy part about it is Matt LaFleur, if you go back and listen to him talk after last night's game, yes, the Packers won, but you almost get excited because Matt LaFleur was talking about all the things they did wrong, like several things that they did wrong, execution-wise, penalty-wise, and everything else. And if, well, we get those cleaned up, my God, if you get those cleaned up, how many points are you going to score on a given week if you get those cleaned up? Because Charlie will tell you as much as anybody else, you get a couple holding calls and you're, 3rd and 30 or 2nd and 30 or 1st and 30, whatever the case may be. That changes the plays that you're calling and how you're getting back into this thing. And the Packers did face that at one point and were able to capitalize on it and go down and score.
It definitely is a huge disadvantage when you get caught in those situations like that. I think something that the Packers kind of witnessed yesterday too is sometimes it's not always really your fault. Sometimes the referee staffs are just having a bad day and are missing calls or are overcalling things because they want to keep an eye on it. The Bears went through that on Monday Night Football too. There was a lot of plays that seemed ticky-tacky the way they were calling it. And as an offensive lineman, if you get 1 to 2 holding penalties, yeah, it gets in your head a little bit, but it's just about moving on. And having a good leader like Jordan Love, like we're hearing from Matt LaFleur, can really help that on the field process for a lot of these guys to help pick them back up and figure out a way to kind of move on from that as their teammate so that themselves can move on from it as well.
The other part about this, that when you talk about Jeff Hafley and the defense that he was able to come up with yesterday, remember we talked about the idea of keeping Jaden Daniels from busting loose and getting runs, trying to contain Jaden Daniels so he didn't get free upfield. And then the other part was what? Don't let him get to the edges and then make plays with his arm. Overall, I'd say A+ for the Packers defense. They didn't allow Jaden Daniels to really beat them at any point in that game.
One of the biggest things I noticed from this game and then also from the Lions game is the Packers were able to go into both these games and have a game plan that they very rarely had to change on the defensive side of the ball, which is almost never the case for any level of defense ever. Usually you have to adjust because defense is all about reacting. It looked like Jeff Hafley was able to walk into both these games with his play sheet and just step back and let his defense do what they do, and they figured it out. That is very rare. And like we talked about before, other NFL teams are going to notice that with Jeff Hafley and want to use that in the future.
Here's Charlie using Sparky Fifer here. Other side of a quick timeout. Before we get to Ryan Wood, I want to address this defensive secondary, because if you remember earlier in the week, Easton Butler came on this show from Packer Report and said that he had heard that the Packers are still shopping, still looking for trades, still trying to get better. We talked about Romeo Doubs possibly being a guy that maybe he gets moved with Christian Watts. Well, Jaden Reed with a cracked collarbone or broken collarbone is probably going to be out to around Thanksgiving at this point, right? So I think you can boot that whole idea of trading Romeo Doubs. However, the other part of this that Easton Butler did bring up was the idea of trading for a cornerback and trying to strengthen that room. But after we saw what we saw last night, Hobbs back, Keyshawn Nixon doing what he's doing, and those guys, is there really a need in order to go get that corner? We'll discuss that straight ahead. Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 1057 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook here at Camp Bar in the Third Ward. All right, let's get to our drive of the game. And this here, there's a couple of really long drives that you can point to, but there were a couple of really good highlights on this drive that happened, that first drive that they put together. Now, remember, they should have had a touchdown on that first drive, but you had a holding call that ruined that touchdown. That should have been for Jaden Reed. That was the play, of course, that he got the broken collarbone. So not only does he not get the touchdown, he ends up hurt. And it's going to be out for quite some time. So let's get to a couple of the big plays on this drive. First off, the first big play on this drive involves our guy, Tucker Kraft.
2nd and 6, good protection, pass wide open, making the catch and getting into Washington territory. Tucker Kraft pulls his way down to the 20-yard line. So Kraft gets a first down and then gets a huge play here for 57 yards to the Washington 20.
That highlight courtesy of Amazon Prime and a great call there. Hey, are you an Al Michaels fan nowadays, Charlie? Because Tommy has been out on Al Michaels since last year as a play-by-play announcer. He said he's lost something off of his fastball, I believe, is what Tommy Wirtz told me.
I mean, I can hear that. I understand where he's coming from. At the same time, no, I mean, Al Michaels is Al Michaels. He's kind of like Bob Uecker a little bit, where it's no matter how slowed down he gets, you still get happy to hear him, I guess. And it's still fun to listen to a guy like Al Michaels even later on. And you understand why he's losing a little on that fastball, I guess.
The other part about this too is I don't know at one point you age out as an announcer. Like I can't remember somebody where a network decided that, okay, you're too old. It's time to retire. We're going to send you off to pasture. I feel like most guys end up announcing as long as they want, right? Especially in baseball. Vince Scully announced as long as he wanted. Bob Uecker announced as long as he wanted, right? Most of these guys don't get pushed out. And Al Michaels just signed a new deal. So Al Michaels isn't going there anywhere anytime soon either. So big play there by Tucker Kraft to break that one open. And that's the one aspect of Tucker Kraft that last year you really didn't see was those explosive plays. A 50-yard play from a tight end, that is a huge play. And when they drafted Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, I think the vision was that Musgrave was going to be that guy and not necessarily Tucker Kraft. But here we sit, and Tucker Kraft now, if that is what it's going to look like the rest of the year, Charlie, that is the guy that you and I were hoping to see this year.
I mean, this is why I drafted him in all of my fantasy leagues. This is the type of stuff I was looking for with a guy from like Tucker Kraft. And honestly, you did see these at points last season with the Tucker Kraft. It just didn't feel like the playbook or the strength of the game at that any given moment was to go to him like this. But it felt like the Packers yesterday saw that one play and were like, all right, that's what we're going to do for the rest of the game. And it worked out. And I feel like this is something you can keep doing moving forward with this Green Bay Packers offense, especially if he's going to have more moments like this, which, again, we saw it last season. You're seeing it already this year. It's pretty obvious he's going to have moments like this.
Yeah, and I would agree with you on that as well. The other part about this, too, when we talk about where we are with Tucker Kraft is, we said yesterday, are they going to run two tight end sets a bunch? Are they going to run play action? Or are they going to spread them out and try and show them something different than maybe what they showed the Detroit Lions in week number 1? They did spread them out a little bit in this game for certain, but they also got bunched up and ran those two tight end sets. The one thing we did not see much of last year or the year before was Jordan Love taking advantage of some open grass in front of him.
On 4th out, here it's 3rd and 9. Chased out. Some room to roam. Going to get the first down. Yes! Bangs into the defender and picks up an extra 5. And the crowd loves it. 1st and goal.
Well, we came into this game thinking that it'd be Jaden Daniels you got to look out for on these kind of situations. But Jordan Love showing you that he's got the ability, too, to make a defense pay if they play man coverage and they forget to account for him. He gets outside. What I love is the end of this. Instead of getting down, he lowers the shoulder and goes right over Quan Martin, the safety.
That's the one aspect that I guess kind of made me skirmish a little bit. I'm all about Jordan Love taking the ball, using his legs, getting upfield. It adds a new dynamic. It helps take him to the next level, right? But the drop in your shoulder, running over a dude, that's Josh Allen type stuff. Josh Allen's a big dude. Jordan Love's not small, right? I mean, he's not, Doug Flutie or something running around out there. I know that's an old guy reference. But either way, when you talk about Jordan Love and what we're doing here, he had multiple injuries last year. He had the non-throwing thumb injury at the start of this year. He hasn't exactly put together a string of games where he's been able to play without getting hurt at this point. That part of it worries me a little bit, Charlie.
A little bit. And I can understand why that'd worry you. But again, this is the type of aggressiveness that you're seeing in the throws coming out in just his style of play in general now. It's confidence. It's not just aggressive, it's confidence. He didn't feel like he could get taken down by that safety, so he stayed up and kept going like that. And yeah, that worries you a little bit. At the same time, he hasn't run like this before. I'm not worried about him just all of a sudden going to start running like this every single night in every single game. That's just not how his play style lends to. What it does tell me is that he's going to start doing it more often if given the opportunity to.
I absolutely love it. Again, I just don't want him to get hurt. Then this drive ends up finishing with a Romeo Doubs touchdown, and you listen to the explanation that Kirk Herbstreit gives to what makes this play so good. Play it.
Off the fake, pass caught, touchdown, Green Bay, Romeo Doubs. So a drive that started at their own 4-yard line goes 96 yards in 7 plays.
Now look at this formation to the left. and with a back, they're just assuming it's a run. Watch the linebacker come up, and because of that, now you've got a one-on-one matchup. Great release at the line of scrimmage there by Dobbs, but give Matt LaFleur a lot of credit. With that formation, that's a run look for this defense, especially down close in the low red zone area, and a good call there early to hit that quick slant for the touchdown.
I want to talk about Matt LaFleur, if you don't mind, Charlie using. And you all can hop aboard as well as we get ready for Ryan Wood to join us here in the next few minutes from the Green Bay Press Gazette. Packers beat writer will join us every Friday here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Dial it up, 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. And also jump in the Dugout YouTube chat session as well. Tweet, Facebook, Instagram, all at The Fan Milwaukee as we live stream this thing on YouTube. Check out our videos, our shorts that we got going on. Like, subscribe, share with us. Again, we've only been on YouTube for a couple of months now, but it's growing pretty rapidly. Pretty proud of how this has turned out. So Matt LaFleur, I think sometimes is kind of the guy that gets blamed for when they go conservative at the end of a game, right? They get a big lead, and then they turn to Josh Jacobs and ask him to run the football, or they turn to Eugene Wilson and they ask him to run the football, or Chris Brooks and so forth. I wish that would have happened last night because, first of all, I didn't want Josh Jacobs in there with under 3 minutes to go and the game clearly in hand. Why Brooks wasn't getting the ball or somebody else is beyond me. I don't need Jacobs getting hurt. The second part about this is then you have Jordan Love running back like 10 yards and getting thrown to the ground. He never, ever should have been in that situation. If you're going to run it, run it. Like, what are we doing? There was no reason. That game was over. Even if they ended up having a punt, it's not the end of the world type stuff. There is no way Jordan Love should have been in there. That should have been Malik Willis. Here you go. Go get a couple snaps, make a couple handoffs. He's out of the game. That was infuriating watching that. I'd much rather have conservative handoff than drop back and possibly get your quarterback hurt when the game is over, Charlie.
I guess, but the season's not over. You don't know that through 2 games that you are unequivocally the best team in the NFL, the best team
I know
in the
that
NFC.
game was over, and the goal was to have him healthy for the rest of the season.
I also know
the goal isn't to run it up in the last 3 minutes of a stupid game.
I also know the goal before the season was to get the most out of Jordan Love possible and see where you're at with him and see what he can do and see what you can do in different situations. And this is a different situation. At the end of a blowout, how does Jordan Love handle having to throw the ball again at some point here if things started going weary, which they didn't, which was nice to see. But at the same time, I don't think this team is at that point where you can just put in your backups this early in the season in a blowout. I think you want to have your starters out there and continue to play and continue to keep that mindset up when you, again, are not the best team in the NFL yet.
Now, I'm at a bar. You're not. You don't have alcohol back there, do you? You're not drinking?
Nope. I am stone cold sober,
There
Sparky.
is no way, there is no reason to have starters in a game that is a blowout
Are these guys football players? Are they getting paid to play football? Then have them be on the field.
That's a good answer. Keep that momentum. When Caleb Williams gets hurt, when they're up by 20 points,
because he's a football player, and if he's getting paid to play football, he should be on the field playing football.
I mean, that's great from an offensive lineman perspective. Yes, you're right. That is your personality. Is that what this is? Are you bitter because you offensive linemen have to stay in the game when the quarterbacks get pulled out? That's what it is. You just have that bitterness, isn't it?
That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this team, again, is starting to build this certain mentality right now that I think a lot of the players are beginning to buy into. And I think the coaching staff is starting to buy into too. And this is a byproduct of that mentality, is that no matter how out of reach the game is for the other team, is that you keep those people in and you keep beating them down. That's what they're trying to instill here. And again, it's still very early in the season. So even though, yes, this is happening already, doesn't mean you just want to move on to the idea that you are there, that you are this best team, even if it looks like it already.
He's Charlie Houston, Sparky Fifer with you here. Packers have an off day today. No media availability for anybody. So Ryan Wood ready and willing and able to join us coming up next. Green Bay Press Gazette, Packers beat writer straight ahead. Wisconsin Sports Daily served up by Wendy's. Live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios. Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Speaking of the Potawatomi Sportsbook, that is a great place to go watch football this weekend, right? You got the pro games, pro football games. You got college football games. Maybe you want to go watch the Badgers. Maybe you want to go check out the Brewers this weekend, or you want to go watch the rest of the games, man. 2,000 square foot center screen, 30 different games going on at one time. that's probably where you're going to want to be. Now, I've told you before, that place gets packed. Yeah, it seats like 300, but there's like no room in there once you get into full college football slate. Once you get into full pro football slate, I highly recommend if you're going to go do this, reserve. Go to potawatomi.com/sportsbook, potawatomi.com/sportsbook. Yes, there's a nominal fee, but that fee goes towards your food and beverage. And let's face facts, you're going to be there 3 hours, 6 hours, 9 hours, however long you're going to be there. You might have multiple meals from the Potawatomi Sportsbook kitchen, several beverages. So that money just goes towards paying for that. And then you just pay the rest of whatever's left. So really, at the end of the day, it's a great idea. Potawatomi.com/sportsbook. Ryan Wood, next. All right, let's get to our guy. He joined us last night on the Green Bay Football postgame show, and he joins us every Friday at 2:40 on this show. He is the one and only, as you just heard, Ryan Wood. All right, Ryan, you got to go home, probably got to bed super late, maybe early this morning by the time you finally crashed out, and you wake up the next day. Does it feel as dominating as it felt last night when we talked, or does it feel even bigger than what it was last night?
Oh, yeah. I have a much easier time discerning that this Packers team is dominant than I do at this current moment what day it is, because it was 4 a.m. last night when I finally got to sleep. But there's no questioning the dominance. You know what I was thinking, Sparky? So I joined the beat here. I've been covering the team since 2014. This is the fourth time in those 12 seasons they've started 2-0. 2015, They were 2-0. 2019, they were 2-0. 2020 is the last time they were 2-0. And so I did a lot of thinking on, okay, how does this feel compared to those. And if you remember, in 2015, they were very much still trying to figure out, okay, what are they going to do with life without Jordy Nelson? He just torn his ACL in the preseason in Pittsburgh, and it was tough sledding. So there was kind of that sense of, okay, good start, but what are you going to do here? 2019, first year Matt LaFleur as head coach. They're 2-0. That's great. You want to win your first 2 games. But that offense took a while to really get on the same page in that first season in that scheme. And that was very evident early in the year. 2020, and we talked a little bit last night on the postgame show, 2020, the last time this happened, they win in Minnesota, the first COVID game. They win against the Lions. Neither of those teams were any good. The only way that you can possibly be less impressed with this 2-0 start is if you might subscribe to the theory that the Lions and Commanders might not actually be that good this year. I don't buy that. I think the Lions and the Commanders are among the best teams in the NFC, and the Packers just spanked them by a combined 54-31. This is not just a 2-0 start. This is the best 2-0 start that I've seen out of the 4 on this beat.
And now let me bring you crashing back down to earth. That was well said. You did a good job. Here's one that I saw last night. Teams that won their first 2 games of the season versus 12-win teams from the season prior, which both the Lions and the Commanders were. 1982, the Pittsburgh Steelers lost in the wild card round. 2001, the Dolphins lost in the wild card round. 2002, the Broncos missed the playoffs. 2022, the Bills lost in the divisional round. Nobody's even made the NFC Championship game doing what the Packers just did to start the season. So all of you that are super excited and can't wait to see what happens next, there you go. I just ruined your Friday. I'm sorry.
See, that's great trivia, Sparky. If we were out at trivia night, that'd be really good to know.
Oh, I hate trivia nights. Hate trivia nights.
I love trivia. I love a good trivia night. I'm not
nights.
good at it. Good at it, but I love a good trivia night. That would be a good question for trivia night. It's just, what does that have to do with the 2025 Packers? Whenever I hear something like that, I'm like, okay, why does that matter? I mean, it's cool. Why does that matter? This doesn't matter any more than what you just said, but 2015, they were within an overtime and a Larry Fitzgerald scamper across the field going to the NFC Championship game. 2019 NFC Championship game. 2020 NFC Championship game. So that's good, right? Now, ultimately, that's not what this team has in mind this season. This team, as soon as they traded for Micah Parsons, is thinking one thing only, and that's not making a Super Bowl. That's winning a Super Bowl. That's the only thing they're thinking about. But in the past decade, when the Packers have had a 2-0 start, it's been emblematic. They've got a pretty good team that has a real chance.
When we talk about this defense and how great it is, after Jaire Alexander leaves, obviously there might have been some talk of, okay, well, they're going to need to find another true corner if this is going to work. Then they get the Micah Parsons deal done, and then it's like, okay, we don't need a really great corner necessarily because the pressure to the quarterback is going to increase. He'll have less time. So this won't matter as much at the end of the day. Well, Keyshawn Nixon, who I've not been overly sold on being a top flight cornerback, definitely played one last night. I'm not sure it's sustainable because, you're not going to find guys breaking up 5 passes every week for an entire season. But that was the best we've seen him play.
Well, you want to talk sustainable, Sparky. It's not since last season's opener in Brazil, the Packers given up a 100-yard receiver. Now, just to be fair, they gave up a 100-yard tight end to Jonnu Smith and Miami Dolphins last season in November.
Okay.
Tight ends are not predominantly covered by corners. That's why it's important to say wide receiver, but it's still very significant. By the way, that was A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. You know who predominantly covered him in that opener last year? Jaire Alexander.
Yep.
Please tell me you remember how many times I've told you in the last 6 months, Sparky, they're just fine at cornerback. That's all I said all offseason. They're just fine at cornerback. Why? They don't get beat. It's been now 19 games since they've given up a 100-yard wide receiver, more than a full season. This is, and why I've said that they're fine at corner. Now you can add a third reason. We'll get to that. Why I've said that they're fine at corner. They have elite safety play. That matters. Jeff Hafley, lifelong DB coach track. His tutelage of those corners is spot on. And then, oh, by the way, when you have Micah Parsons up front and you know that no receiver has any time to make a double move, they're all single move, and you can jump and bite on everything, that's where you're able to really be aggressive with the ball, which you saw from Keyshawn Nixon last night. This is going to be a theme that you see. The marriage of rush and coverage is something this Packers defense has done flawlessly over the first 2 games, and I don't think that's going to stop.
Last year, a talking point about the Green Bay Packers was obviously Jordan Love and not being able to stay healthy and all that fun stuff. But besides that, the other talking point was interceptions. He threw an interception in every one of the beginning games through November 17th. He had thrown an interception. His last interception coming against the Bears on the 17th, a 20-19 victory. He has not thrown an interception since November 17th of last year in a regular season game. And I think if you're talking about the next steps for Jordan Love, using the legs obviously is one of it. We talked about that earlier. The other part of it is who really is he going to be, right? Because that first half of that first year, nobody knew what they were doing. It was a mess. That wasn't his fault. The second half, he threw one pick in the second half on that crazy run that he was on. Then last year, he starts off looking like Utah State Jordan Love, throwing picks on the beginning half of the season, and then gets super conservative by design, I think. And then doesn't throw anymore. Who is the real Jordan Love? What is the real Jordan Love when it comes to turnovers year to year on a given season? What should we be expecting?
Before we get to that in the big picture, let's look at the current right now when we ask who is Jordan Love. How about that welcome back to being fully healthy moment last night early in the game when he rolls right, needs to pick up a first down. He knows that Trey Amos is going to meet him before the sticks, and he gives no cares at all. He lowers his shoulder and delivers the boom. It was the quarterback laying out the DB, not the other way around. That's something we could have seen Jordan Love do all last year. I mean, he could move a little bit. It's not like he was a complete statue. He wasn't doing that. So just the difference between now and a year ago, his second game of the season last season, week 4 against Minnesota, when he couldn't move, it's night and day with that mobility and how well he feels with his legs. As far as the big picture on who he is going to be aggressive, but what he's shown, and I think the sample size is growing to a point that we can have some confidence in this is who he is. What he has shown is that he can be aggressive. He might not make every downfield throw. He might be off on his accuracy downfield from time to time, but he can be aggressive without being stupid, without turning the ball over, being careless and making terrible mistakes. The one exception to that was early last season, and it just seemed like, he just gotten the contract. He comes into the year pressing, trying to live up and play up to that contract, and he made some throws. I think is a throw that the interception he had in the opener last year against the Eagles when Luke Musgrave was double covered. There was no window, but he just tried to force it in there. That's, as the sample size is growing, that's becoming more and more the exception. What's becoming the norm is being able to be very aggressive in his play styles, decision-making, while not threatening the football into bad situations. That's what he's been for the bulk of his playing time as the starting quarterback.
He is Ryan Wood. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Wood. And, of course, he'll join us each and every Friday here on Wisconsin Sports Daily. Packers beat writer for the Green Bay Gazette joins us on the Fancast Hotline powered by Gruber Law. Ryan, when we talk about this offense and what it's going to be going forward, how impressed were you by the job that we saw? 2 offensive linemen who got thrusted into play because of injuries. You had the second-round pick Belton at right tackle. You had the former first-round pick Jordan Morgan at left guard. How would you analyze how they looked in their start?
The protection's been pretty good the first 2 games, and I haven't gotten into the granular looking at the film yet from last night because I barely slept. But I think that long-term, the Packers have to feel good that their depth there has been tested and it's held up, because it's something that all last year, their depth wasn't tested at all. All 5 starters in the offensive line played over 1,000 snaps last season. It wasn't until Elton Jenkins leaves 4 snaps into the playoff game in Philadelphia with a stinger and doesn't come back, that was their real first test of their depth last season. And they find out at the worst possible time, they don't have any. That's in the playoffs is not when you want to find out for the first time you don't have depth on the offensive line, but that was the reality last year. Now they have to feel pretty good with the depth, and not having Aaron Banks and Zach Tom is a huge deal. Those are 2 top 5 paid players at their respective positions, left guard and right tackle, in this league. There is a ton of investment, ton of money paid to those 2 guys to make this offensive line a step above. So not only testing the depth, but specifically with those 2 guys off the field, they have to feel pretty good about that.
I think when we talk about the depth of this offensive line, obviously it's great at this point. When we talk about the tight end room, I think you feel comfortable there. I think when we talk about the running backs, you feel comfortable there. Wide receivers, the Jaden Reed loss with that collarbone, and I think the hope is he's back at some point in November, probably towards Thanksgiving. How comfortable right now are you with the wide receiver depth going forward, knowing, they get Christian Watson back at some point in October?
Let me ask you, if you knew right now, and it sure seems like this is going to most likely be the case, that Jaden Reed is not going to be on the field again in full football shape, and let's call it December, right? Because it's going to take a couple weeks once he gets back to really get in the flow.
Sure.
But that you get a healthy, rested Jaden Reed in December, and you've got that. You feel pretty good about that, don't you?
Yes.
See, I think that this is quite possibly a blessing in disguise. He was already playing through the Jones fracture. Not that you ever want to have an injury that leads to surgery, especially early in the season. You'd rather him just be healthy. But he wasn't healthy. And now he has time to rest the foot. He's going to be back this season. It's not a season-ending injury. He's going to be fresh because late in the season for the playoff push, there's some silver linings here. I think long term, the concern, he's played in his last 3 games, going back to the Eagles' loss in the playoffs last year. You've got a separated shoulder. You've got the Jones fracture from training camp, and now you've got the broken collarbone week 2. He is not a big guy. He is on the smaller side for his body. You wonder, can he hold up? Right? Any receiver of his size, that is always a concern. Same concern, by the way, for Matthew Golden. Also not the biggest size. We haven't seen any injuries from him. Some guys, that becomes a thing. You just hope it doesn't become a thing for Jaden Reed and that he's able to stay healthy, because when he is fresh, when he is healthy, as you expect him to be in December, it makes a big difference for this offense.
He is Ryan Wood of the Green Bay Press-Gazette. Packers beat writer will join us after every Green Bay game. Of course, in the Green Bay Football Postgame Show will join us Wisconsin Sports Daily Friday afternoons at 2:40 as well. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Take care, Sparky.
There he is joining us on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Sparky here, Charlie using back there. I'm at Camp Bar in the 3rd Ward, thanks to Sun Cruiser. Vodka, iced teas, come on out, have one. And again, if you're all about the up north, the atmosphere, and everything that goes along with it, I find it hard to believe you'll find any place even remotely close to what this atmosphere brings you as soon as you walk inside. Yes, you're in the 3rd Ward. You're looking at 794 and all of that, but this place is amazing on the inside. Great food, drinks, all of that fun stuff. Come hang out at Camp Bar in the 3rd Ward. We'll be out here till 7 o'clock. I'm out here till 5:30. And then from 5:30 to 7, it's the leadoff show powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook with our guy, Tommy Wirtz. And he'll take you all the way up to first pitch between the Brewers and Cardinals tonight at American Family Field. Hey, if you love Wendy's classic chocolate and vanilla frosty flavors, there's some big news. They're all new Frosty Swirls and now Frosty Fusions. It's the same creamy treat that you'll always love. Now the flavor refresh. So what are these new flavors? Well, we've got the Frosty Swirls, which we all know. Strawberry, brownie, batter, and caramel. Now remember, you can use either base for this. So the vanilla base Frosty or the chocolate base Frosty. Now myself, I like the chocolate with the brownie batter. But now they have Frosty Fusions. So now you have the options as well as the swirls, but now Oreo brownie, caramel crunch, which is like pieces of toffee, and Pop-Tart strawberry. So clock in for a sweet treat time with Wendy's, all new Frosty flavors, a refresh on a classic. It's got to be Wendy's. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Coming up on the other side, we'll continue to talk about the Packers, but I want to talk about a possible effect it's having on the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll talk about that straight ahead here on The Fan.